All right, Chester, you just passed the PMP exam. How did it go for you, man?
Actually, it went a lot smoother than I thought it would.
All right, that's good. All right, so you did really well this time. Why don't you talk us through kind of like your basic story, like the short version? I know it's been some ups and downs, but give us the highlights.
Oh man, where do I begin? Actually, so I um, I got into the master class,
Yeah.
your master class, and I started going through that, and we had some family issues. My dad, passed away, and
Mhm.
so I had to kind of put things on hold. But it was really cool because your program is like always there for you.
Yeah.
And it's not you got to start now and you got to finish then. It's just do it at your pace and get her done. And as I was finishing through the master class,
Mhm.
I listened to some of your web videos on YouTube
Yep.
about the 7 day accelerator, and I thought, holy cow, you know what, this would actually, I really like the approach as to how you were explaining it. And it seemed like a broader approach, a broader stroke to get the flow of everything rather than dissecting or decomposing the phases and the knowledge groups and everything that I was going through with the E series or with the E master class, which was great. It was giving me a lot of good stuff, but I'm kind of a visual write down kind of guy and listen to the flow of things. And you mentioned flow and getting a grasp on how the whole process works and where one process goes into the other process. And I thought, I got to call you, I got to talk to you about this. And yeah, yeah, the 7 day accelerator was, I think it was on the second day I had this revelation, this big belly laugh, because everything just clicked. I mean, it all came rushing together, and it was like, oh my God, I got this. And I did this without having a PMBOK guide.
So that's awesome, man. That is really, really cool. And so, I mean, the coolest part about this, it's like the good and sad side of it. It's like you pass, you do all these things, and then I'm like, oh, he's not going to be in the coaching calls. Like in the same way, we might, work something else out, right? Like with coaches and stuff. But it's like, you know, it's sad for us, but happy because you're like 128 or something like that. So I know that you were always in the coaching calls, and you were, putting your hand in there about answer questions. Like, talk to me a little bit about kind of like what the coaching calls did for you. Like, were they helpful? Like, what went on in the coaching calls? Kind of like talk through it. Like I don't know anything, or anybody doesn't know anything about what happens in the coaching calls.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. No, the coaching calls were really cool because you could go through the information, you could decipher it, you can analyze it your own way. But then to jump on the coaching calls and, number one, learn how to approach a question, reading the last line first. Okay. So you can understand what's being asked of you in that question. Then as soon as you read that last line first, all of a sudden things start to roll in your head. Okay, where am I? What am I going to be doing next? Or what
Mhm.
is being asked of me at this particular point? And then as you read through the question, it really begins to make sense. And then being on the coaching call, you get different perspectives. And through the different perspectives, you are, it really enables you to get that get that description of, don't look at it this way, look at it that way, which really could make things click for you, depending on what you may be having difficulties with, or a different point of view that really enlightens you and brings some things out that you never thought of before. So having that mix really helped.
That's awesome, man. And then so like those are like the big coaching calls, and that was like it's always fun to be in there because like you're right, like two different sides, people like talking it through, and they see it from one side, and then like you'll jump in and be like, I see it from this side, and like that's one of the ways that I know that students are ready, and we knew you were ready because you're always jumping in there and saying like, well, what about this, and like making the other person think, and that's super helpful. Now those are the big calls where we go through questions. Now the smaller ones that are more focused, who was your coach? Like, I think you had multiple, but like, who was one of the coaches that you worked with
I
independently?
worked with Kelly.
Okay, cool. Yep. And so what were the small accountability coaches like? Talk me through kind of like, how they were the same, how are they different? Like, what did you do in the accountability calls?
Well, with, say, for instance, with Kelly, what we did is at the beginning of the call, it was kind of like, if you've ever, is you were the professor and Kelly was the TA.
Mm.
And if you thought of another question, because it always happened, I would have the coaching call, the big coaching call with you on Wednesday night. And then by Thursday, I was thinking about things and I had these questions. And Kelly actually gave you a chance to, well, I know the other coaches do that too. They give you a chance to ask some questions at the beginning and then at the end. And then Kelly even brought in some of her past students that had passed the test.
Mm-hmm.
And that gave us some really good insight, because one student would take the online through the internet, another student would go into the testing center, and we would hear the different experiences and what their feelings were toward one or the other. And it really helped to prepare. But at the beginning and at the end, we would have like Q&A about anything under the sun. Do you have a question about this process or this knowledge group? Or where's your hang up? How many, do you have more things on your evaporating list in one process group than the other? Where's the disconnect? So it was very, very good. And then depending on the dialogue and the interaction, there's really no cutoff point. I have to say that about you, about your coaches. You really invest the time and to ensure the understanding.
That's awesome, man. And then, so the biggest question that I get asked like almost every day is like, how will I know if I'm ready to take the exam? Like, so I know that we try to like layer some different ways in with like the coaches telling you and you, but how did you know that you were ready to take the exam?
Well, there came a point where I would be, you have exams built into your processes. You're into your 7-day accelerator. You have exams built into the e-masterclass and things like that.
Yep.
I probably took that 200 question test, which was the 4 hours, just to see if I could sit there for 4 hours and concentrate and just not zone out. But I did take that. And it really gave me an indication of whether, number one, I could sit there 4 hours and concentrate. And I didn't take a 10-minute break that they normally give you during the actual PMI test or exam. Mm-hmm. So I did not take that break. I just kept going because you can't pause it in yours. You have to keep going. But that gave me a sensation as, okay, I can get through the 4 hours. And then depending on your score, mm-hmm. if you scored around 80 plus or something, that in itself is giving you the confidence. But it's also giving you the feedback of which questions you need to go back and put on your evaporating list and maybe review or study over. So I spent time doing the 20 question after maybe a deep dive video.
Yep.
Or maybe those 50 question tests, which were really good. So when I was scoring in the 90s and close to 100, like 94, I was beginning to really feel confident. And then even getting on your call and the coaching calls mm-hmm. and going through the questions and dissecting those, I felt that I was coming to more of the 50-50.
Yeah.
On a more consistently.
Yeah.
And then it was just honing it down and really trying to figure out, okay, am I making the right decision when it came down to 50-50? And with that, you just begin to feel more and more comfortable about that.
There you go. That's pretty cool. Yeah. And then Kelly always was telling me, she's like, oh, check, because all the other coaches like text me. We have a system inside, but they always text me and like, hey, I got this person taking it today, this person taking it today. And she was like, oh, Chester's taking it today. He guaranteed pass. And I was like, all right, sweet. Like that feels good. I mean, she had already said it, but she felt confident in it, super confident in it. So that's always good. Cool. So there are probably people out there that are just like you, and they want to get the PMP, and maybe the end of the year is looming for them. They're like, oh goodness, the exam's changing. What am I going to do? So for those kind of people that are on the fence, like, what would you say to them? What is something that they should do in order to be more successful on the exam? What do you think?
Okay. I would say if you're a person that needs to look at testing and take tests, I would really, yeah, sure, take the 200 question test, see if you could get through that, what your comfort level is. Pick a time of day that you think you're going to take that test.
Yeah.
If it's good, if you're an afternoon person, then pick it up at 2 o'clock and run to 6, or 1 o'clock and run to 5 or whatever. Or if you're a morning person, do that. Try that out. Maybe do that once or twice just to get a feel for either AM or PM. But then the other thing is definitely, if you've got that comfort level as far as knowing the knowledge areas and the process groups and understanding the flow, like your 7 flows video in the 7-day accelerator, if you feel comfortable with that flow and you know where those things are going, and you could fill in some of the detail with that, whether it's tools or techniques, knowing different risk response strategies and things like that.
Yep.
If you have a decent working knowledge of that, and you feel comfortable talking about that, I would even recommend reaching out to some of those people in the breakout classes.
Yeah.
See if you could link up with those people and have conversations about it.
Yeah.
And if you do that in your videos, you pause and you ask us to talk back to the screen. And you know what? You had me talking like crazy back to the screen, and you're so patient. You're just sitting there waiting for us to answer.
It feels weird on my side, but I'm like, we're gonna gamble and we're gonna make them talk. So
trust me, we're talking.
Okay.
But to talk through it and to really grasp that and talk with other students, if you can link up with them, it's the community that you foster within your training sessions is great, because I found new friends through the training session, and with that you get the support. And like I said, going into this test, I wasn't half as nervous as I thought I was going to be. I took my time, and actually going through the test, I was watching my time, and I saw that I was probably about 5 or 6 questions behind where I need to be. But I didn't panic about it, because I figured there were going to be some of those questions that I'd roll right through in about 20 seconds rather than a minute and 8 seconds.
Yeah.
And there were.
That's awesome.
It made me hesitate, because it was just like, wow, that seemed really too easy.
Yeah.
But I knew it well enough that no, that's the only answer it could be. So
That's awesome.
I would just move right through it. But no, seriously, understand the 7 flows. Go through that 7 flows video. Pick out some of the main tools and techniques of each of the process groups. In order to understand what tool or technique can get you from one process group to the other.
Cool.
And figure out what's helping with that flow. But it's the flow. It's really the flow.
That's awesome. Yeah. And so, everything comes together on day 5, or at least it's designed to, with the flows video. So just from a high level, like people call me all the time, like, hey, can I get this flows video? I'm like, no, you can't. Like, sorry, you can't get it. It's only in the accelerator. Cause there's a reason. It's just cause like, I don't think they're ready for it yet. And otherwise they just kind of like, take they wouldn't be able to bring it all together. So how did that flows video help you out? Like, what did it do for you that you said it was beneficial?
It it connected the dots.
Mhm.
If you remember when I first started, I had all this information in my head and I was trying to connect the dots, string those pearls together. And man, I'm telling you, it just really came together because, you know, just understanding that, you know, direct and manage work, you know, project work.
Mhm.
And then as soon as you hit that, where all of that goes and what all begins to move as soon as you're done with the baselines and in the planning group, you're moving right into executing and monitoring and controlling. And understanding that and seeing where those flows take you just really helps you to connect the dots and really understand with an understanding of the process and the knowledge groups and how they all connect. Just it's like a movie that comes all together.
That's awesome. Well, that's
Yeah.
good. I'm glad it did. So like, as you went through, do you think that the way you look at projects has changed or evolved in any way? Like, has there been any impact in that respect?
Oh yeah, absolutely. There were things that I was going through that I as I went through the as I went through the training and
Mhm.
learned more about some of the details within the process groups and the knowledge areas, I thought to myself back on some other projects, oh yeah, I could have really helped the project go a little smoother in this application rather
That's
than
awesome.
what happened. So yeah, it really does help.
Well, that's cool, man. Well, Chester, we're really, really proud of how well you did. It was great having you in the calls. We'll talk after or in the next couple of weeks or whatever about
Yeah.
ways in which to contribute and be involved. But you did amazing. You were always an asset to like everybody else in the calls. They're gonna miss you, but they're happy that you got through.
Yeah, them too.
So we really, really appreciate it, man. Thanks for taking the time, and you did an amazing job. So congrats.
Oh yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes,
Thanks,
sir.
Scott. Appreciate it.
Cool. All right. All right. Cool. Let me just